We got a trailer with a bad brake chamber. Trailer's not here at the house. It's at the swap lot. I went ahead and pulled the brake chamber off. Unfortunately, the swivel here on the line wouldn't swivel. I couldn't get the brake loose, so I had to cut it. So I can get the proper size. What I did is I took a bungee cord I had in the truck, measured from here to the nut on the other end at the valve, and then I took that bungee cord, I bent it in half and made sure that both ends of the bungee cord were measured to was actually the same, so that gave me the exact halfway point, and that's where I cut this line, is at the halfway point. That way I can take that line, go to the truck parts store, get a new line, and I'll know what length it is because I didn't have a tape measure. I didn't have anything to measure with, no tape measure, nothing. That was the only way I could think of doing it. Well, this one here, as you can see, the ports are there on that one, ports are there on that one. Now look at the nuts and the studs. They are not in the same orientation. Got to clock the new one. Taking the brake chamber off is not a real brainer. You pull the pin on the clevis. That will allow you to get the clevis off. And then you take these two bolts off. The brake chamber will actually come off once you get the lines off and out of the way. Right now, what I'm going to do, and this is the clevis. And there's a pin that goes through here with a Carter key, and it screws on to this rod. So when you have to cut the rod, otherwise if you just put it on, it's going to be way too long. I've already measured this one over here because I'm at the house. I have a lot more stuff. I come up with 9.5 inches from here to the top of the rod. What I did is, as you can see, I'm at 9.5 inches. And what I do when I cut these, I run this nut down to the nut to wherever I have to cut it at. Then I use the grinder with a cutoff wheel and lay it against the nut. Even if you cut a little bit of the nut away, it's not that critical because all this is a jam nut to make sure that the clevis can't turn. I'm going to take the grinder with a cutoff wheel, cut it right here against the nut, and now give me my 9.5 inches. And then I can go ahead and screw the nut down far enough. As you can see, on this one here, the stud actually stuck out past the clevis a little bit. That's not critical because that little bit ain't going to affect the slack adjustment. As you can see, I'll run the new nut down where this one is, and then I'll put the clevis on this rod here. Now when you cut it, if you look at the new stud, or rod, you can see a bevel right here. When you cut it, that's the reason I run the nut down. When you cut it, you can run the nut up and down to straighten the threads out, because you're going to mess up the threads when you cut the rod. With the nut below it, you can run it up and down until you straighten threads out to get the clevis on. Unfortunately, they don't provide you the clevis anymore. They used to provide a brand new clevis with all this type of clevis, not the other ones. Just this one with the single hole in it, but they don't do that anymore. So, and I don't have any extras, so I had to fight and get this one off that rusted one, so I got to reuse this one. All right, I'm going to get the grinder and cut this. Once I get this off and run the nut down, put the clevis on, then I'm going to show you about clock. These have to be in the same orientation as this, and on that one you can see they're in line. So these are going to have to be in line this way. We got the caging, or the clevis on, and as you can see, it's sticking up just a little bit past the clevis. So we know it's definitely full threaded on there, just like the other one had a little bit sticking up past there. Now what we need to do is we need to do what's called caging the brake chamber. This is what's called a caging bolt. As you can see how you have ears on both sides, and other than that, it's just a bolt. Inside the brake chamber, inside the hole here on this brake chamber, if you stick your finger in there, if you have long enough fingers, there's a piece in there that the T, or the ears pieces, will go in and lock. And that actually pulls the spring that will allow you to loosen this band up. I never take this band off because even when it's caged, if you take this band off, it's a real pain to try and get it back together. Some people will actually take this band off and replace the rubber, what's called a pancake in here. I don't recommend that, because if that aluminum breaks in there, because that's what this goes into, it just goes into aluminum piece in there, and I've had them break. If it breaks, that spring is going to have all that tension and you could get hurt or killed. I do not replace the rubber pancakes in these brake chambers. These brake chambers are not that expensive when you're comparing it to your life, and I'd rather just replace the brake chamber. It's a whole lot safer. When I go to cage it, I'll show you that I'm not going to take this band all the way off. I'm just going to loosen it up to where I can move the plate that the studs are on. But right now we're going to stick this in there, and I couldn't stick my finger in there to find out which way the ears have to be. It could be anywhere on the clock, so you have to pretty much use the bolt, feel around in there, find the spot, and then just rotate the bolt until you get it to go down in. There it is. And then just get down in there, get it to turn and lock in, and then you just start tightening this nut up until you get it tight. I got this thing caged. As you can see, the bolt is sticking out. I got it tight. If I go any more, I'll break the aluminum inside that housing. If you don't have a caging bolt, don't panic, because by DOT regulations, every brake chamber that's mounted on the truck is supposed to have one mounted in the holder. In the real world, it's only there about 3/4 of the time, because somebody may have towed the truck or something, done something in the past where they had to release the brakes manually and didn't put it back. Not everybody puts them back, and sometimes they're so rusted in there they don't want to come out. If you have a brand new brake chamber, it's going to have a caging bolt and it will come out, and you can always use it. Now what I'm going to do is, off camera, I'm going to go ahead and loosen this nut up until the bracket is loose enough. Then I'll start the camera back up to show you about what's called clocking, setting these in the right orientation with the holes. Okay, I got these loose to the point where this will turn, and as you see this lip down in here, I don't have them so loose that this piece can fly off. You're not going to have anything down here on these threads. If you burr up these threads clean down here, that's not a problem. What I normally do, this is one of the reasons I have this in here, something for me to hold on to. As you know, that one there is right here lined up with the holes. So I'm going to bring this around to here. I'm just going to do a little beating, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this wrench on here, and I'm just going to keep slamming against the center pole while I hold the rod also in place to bring this around. And unfortunately, I can't hold the camera and do all that at the same time. As you can see, there's the holes, and these are lined up with the holes again, or not again, but it's lined up just like that one over there is. So now all you do is you tighten these down. Brake chamber is going to be ready to go on, and that's all there is to getting a brake chamber ready to go and clocking it. Like I said, do not take this off, because one, you could get hurt. Two, it's a real burger to try and get it back on. All right, I appreciate you coming back and watching another video. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up and that subscribe button, and let's see what else we're going to get into. Thank you, and have a better day. Before I get a ton of views, an afterthought that I had is I'm going to have people say, well, why didn't you take the line off of both ends and take it with you? Well, where the trailer is, right along some woods and that, and I was worried about bugs getting up in the valves and that. I didn't have tape or anything like that. I had some gloves and wire ties. So I put a glove over every line that I had to disconnect and wire tie them to it. And that's why I left part of the line on the trailer at the valve, so I could actually block the hole to prevent anything from getting up in there and causing problems with the brake valve. And that's the reason we put dummy glad hands on all our trailers, is so we don't have bugs in the lines causing us blocked lines, blocked valves, etc.